All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I'm joined by.
Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder, Movers Shakers Unlimited. How's everything going, everybody? How's everything, man? How you
Going
been?
good. It's going good. Happy Saturday, everybody. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend, whatever it is that you have planned. As the summer of 2021 is, slowly drawing to the close. But there's so much to cover and so many awesome events that are on tap and on the way. So, be on the lookout for that as we do have some, fun things planned for you guys in the coming months ahead. But with that being said, thank you for joining us on this episode of This Week in Review, the show that brings you the news that have made the rounds over the course of the week that has just passed us. Before we get into the news bits that have made the rounds, I just want to go into a couple of reminders. Make sure, of course, that you hit that hashtag of this week in review MNSU, or otherwise known as TWnRMNSU. The same hashtag that you saw, at the start in our background there, and also down below. If you're catching the show, whether it's live or as an archive episode, you can make sure that you are part of the conversation by using that hashtag. Additionally, if you enjoy much of the content that we do over here at Movers and Shakers Unlimited, make sure that you also become a Patreon supporter of us as well. So you can find the link right down below. We do have some cool perks that are available to our Patreon supporters. And with that being said, I want to give a shout out to Joel Bourgeois, who is a Patreon supporter for us. Yes, with all that in mind,
Shout out,
let's
sis.
hop. With all that in mind, let's hop right into the stories, Jerome. First up, I felt that it was in lieu of everything that's been happening out in the entertainment world, especially with many creatives and those instances where we are hearing some disagreements being made between creatives and those studios that are making many of those projects with those creatives. There was a story in the Guardian over the course of this week that talked about comic creators surprisingly only walking away with allegedly $5,000 for a lot of their adapted IPs, so a lot of their intellectual properties. So yes, in that story, let me pull it up.
And getting invited to the premiere.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. So a lot of times when you're thinking of Marvel and DC and a lot of these, whether they're films, whether they are shows on streaming, which Disney Plus has had 3 now, they have more on the way. HBO Max will have some soon. I mean, we have Peacemaker that's on the way. So you think of all these shows, and while it's fun as fans to have a lot of these shows and to be able to enjoy them, it can be really easy to oversee the fact that there were artists and creatives that have brought these characters to life, and without that inspiration or those characters that they have brought to life, we wouldn't be able to enjoy many of these properties that we know now. And a lot of these major companies, whether it's you talk about the 2 big ones, Marvel, DC, and even those that have adapted them elsewhere with like WB and Disney, and I mean we could talk about other ones too, Sony, New Line, others. That have brought them to the big screen, the small screen, whatever the case may be. It's kind of jarring to think that the creatives that have brought them to life are receiving so little. So Jerome, what are your thoughts on the news that they talk about here of how much these creatives are earning for these characters?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting story. And also shout out everyone for watching our 26th episode. And like I said, once again, shout out to my sister, Joelle Bourgeois, for being a Patreon supporter. First one. Yeah, I thought this was a really good story. I was really, reading this and it's quite disappointing and sad, but it's not really surprising all the time. Even though, I think Marvel seems to be, I mean, they like, even the companies we like the most who produce a lot of good content, even, if they seem like they're doing a lot of goodwill for their actors and filmmakers and creators. I mean, I remember Stan Lee there was an issue with Stan Lee not getting paid as much as he should have for, I mean, like everything that's pretty much based off of his. I'm pretty much every story you see, not all of them, but most of them were he created the story or co-created it. And it's like, I mean, even the amount of money he received, I don't know if it was really a fair compensation compared to everyone else. I mean, now the thing is, you got to also remember, there's contracts, and that's why you have to have a good entertainment lawyer, good manager, good agent, and negotiate your agreements. And I know in the article, it's just like even filmmakers and music artists, that sort of thing. Like some of these guys were like works for hire. So they might have gotten an upfront fee or certain fee, and then maybe they get a small amount of royalties. It's not too dissimilar to like like a first-time screenwriter who sells a script. Like you might sell your script, it gets optioned, then you sell it, you get a certain amount up front, but you're probably not going to see that much on the back end until you're like a name writer, established writer, and then later on you can maybe negotiate stuff. Or like with actors or anyone who's emerging. But what's crazy is a lot of these guys, I mean, they've been around for a while and now they've created these characters way back in the day, and then now they're these these characters and stories are making billions of dollars at the box office and merchandise. Billions. Yeah, exactly. So it makes you wonder. It's like, okay, yes, it is true. These creators and everything, they need to make sure they negotiate the best contract possible. But regardless of that, you would think that these big companies would just acknowledge and be like, all right, well, we're deriving a lot of our profits, our revenue and profits from these characters and these storylines that were, even if it's not exactly what that was, they're highly influencing and being incorporated into these movies and TV shows and animated shows and movies. And, that's what that's what's making it great. And that's what's making people want to watch them. That's what's making people want to go to the movie theater, subscribe to Disney Plus, whatever. You would think that they would want to compensate these artists and creators with more money. But I mean, this is, it's capitalism, it's business. So they're not obligated to give them more than, I guess, what was negotiated in their contract. Even though I know that some of these guys they might have gotten additional benefits by being given like executive producer credit or whatever on some of these shows. But regardless, you would just think that there would be some sort of, negotiation or added benefit or bonus for once these movies or whatever, they made a certain amount of money. That's my only thing. I would think that maybe like the equity or the royalties would highly increase and they would get some sort of bonus there, just like they give the actors and these other creators. But no, when I heard $5,000 and invited to the premiere, that's nothing.
Here's the thing, the ticket to the premiere is not even guaranteed. Let me just make that clear. Like, you at that point of, you can get a ticket to the premiere of the thing that you created, but I'm like, that should be a given. And based on what they stipulate in this article is that even then, that's not even like guaranteed. And I mean, to your point, talking about the meat and potatoes, if you will, of contracts. The article does go into and just the basics, or at least the surface level things that you, as a comic creator, that that you have to deal with, and being in the industry. They listed here in the article, comic creators are work for hire. So, the companies that they work for, owe them nothing beyond a flat fee and royalty payments. However, there are instances where, goes to the point of, is just the principle, and it's just the idea of, the fact that you want to have goodwill with the very folks that, provide you with the content that you need, that you make a profit off of. There are instances where creatives have been able to get special deals. However, if you look closely in the article, it seems like the only time in which, those special deals happen is one or two reasons. Either one, whatever the studio company, what have you, whoever they may be that's adapting that property, they want to make sure that they have, goodwill with that creative, for fear of having any backlash. Or if the creative themselves goes out of their way and takes the initiative to seek a better deal. And I think the point that needs to be made here is it shouldn't involve or require extra footwork from the person who created it in order to be able to be compensated, appropriately. Because they had a couple of instances in here that they talk about, and they have someone that we've spoken with Jim Starlin. Yeah. So based on the quote that they have here in the article, he says, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. He states that he negotiated a bigger payout, after, sitting, breaking it down to Marvel, like, listen, like, you're using Thanos as a major part of, your multi-billion-dollar franchise. I should be, compensated accordingly. They have other instances. So, Marvel writer Roy Thomas, he was able to get his name added to the credits for Disney Plus, and just to have his name added, as to a character that he had that he provided, his creative juices to, like, that in that with that character, you would think that would be a given, because I'm assuming, they don't really go into specifics here, just to get your name up there, not even necessarily to get paid, but just to be acknowledged as a person who did that. Because even in having that acknowledgement that's up there for everyone to see, is that could be used as tools to get more revenue. Because, for those of you out there, like, if you have a lot of comic creatives that are, going to cons or doing signings, they're able to use that as license or as a platform in order to be able to promote themselves further, to get, other, opportunities that provide them with funds, that provide them, with monetary opportunities. So, it just seems like, unfortunately, it needs to come to a point where a lot of these creatives that are, bringing in, if we're really thinking about it, bringing in billions to larger organizations, and not necessarily being compensated accordingly, that there needs to be more discussion as to how that can be rectified, for sure. Do you have any other thoughts before we move on? And they talk about other artists as well, and other creatives as well, as I said in this article from Guardian. So hat tip to them. And I can share it over here in the description if you guys want to check it out, because as I said, they go into more detail with other creatives. But just for the sake of time, did you have anything else to add, Jerome, before we move on?
Yeah, just adding on, like, it's just something I've seen and, like, I've dealt with, because I've worked, in the music industry and film industry, and the documentary TV side, and like I said, it's really, there's differences, but really not much difference. And even going back to school, going to film school, that was the difference between NYU and USC. NYU, you owned your own films when you made a film or something. USC, you owned the idea or whatever, or but you didn't actually own the film. So I don't know if they changed that, but there's slight difference. There's a reason why they do stuff like that. And it's like I've worked for a production company where they're like, anything you create there at that company, like, they own. So you have to, like, kind of be careful with how you're creating stuff if that's the case. And then sometimes it's like, it doesn't even matter if you are if you're creating something, but you need to create it with those resources, like those are usually the deals that you get at first. Just like I said, music artists, and you just don't have as much leverage. So the important thing is, I guess, if you have trying to get the best lawyer, the best agent, manager, and person to negotiate your deals as much as possible, at least for the back end stuff, because it really is a lesson in, like, yeah, I mean, people need to eat for their work. They need to get paid, but like, even whatever you're getting up front, I mean, you kind of, a lot of times lawyers and agents, they'll be like, for first time filmmaker artists, they'll be like, try to get as much as you can up front, because you don't know if you're going to see anything. But, if you get a big hit later on, it's like, you really can reap those benefits. But it seems to be in a lot of business, especially entertainment, that it's like your first project or anything you do at first, for the most part, you're not going to make much money regardless with the deal, because you just don't have as much leverage. But then the next one you should be able to, or unless if they're going to be putting up the money, because that's another thing. That's why these companies do what they do, is because, like, with a lot of these music contracts, like they're putting up a lot of money. So usually the artists, they're not getting much money. And the same with Spotify or whatever. You could say the same thing with movies or TV shows. But then once you get more leverage, then you have more of a chance to negotiate more of the back end. And that's what you see with these actors in Marvel, like, Robert Downey Jr. I think he made like $70 million off the first Avengers, and some other people, obviously there's that lawsuit with Scarlett Johansson and Disney about Black Widow, how she could have made, we were talking about this last week, but how she could have made like 50 million or 60 million instead of just the 20 million. But I mean, those are like fair points in your negotiating, your negotiations. But then again, they're able to leverage that because they've been in so many movies and they have a name, and like they can do that more. The problem is, for a lot of these first time creators, independent filmmakers, independent artists, or just starting off, when you first start off, usually you just don't get those types of deals. So it's like, it's just tough to, like, go against that. And it's just really sad that that's the case in entertainment in general. So, but I don't know. All I could say is, like, all I can say is, like, people who make a lot of money with business, especially, like, it's like, you would just think that there would just be some sort of structure to, at least, even if they're not paying them, obviously, a ridiculous amount. It's just fair, like, bonuses, I would say, later on. Royalties should go up, at least something like that. But, all I can say is this is pretty much normal business practice for a lot of these companies, regardless, because they're looking at their own best interest. And then you have to push them, like you said, like, what's his name? Squeaky wheel gets the oil. You got to push them. Your lawyers and your agents have to push these companies.
That's what I was going to say. Lawyer up. Just as Jimmy Palmiotti says in this article. For those of you who don't know, he's a writer of Jonah Hex and Harley Quinn. Lawyer up. No matter what the case may be, when you're doing those contracts and making sure that it's clear to both parties what what's being agreed to. Just another case of that. It's just, like I said, it's just unfortunate that, in terms of just goodwill, I guess there's no real such thing as that. Unfortunately, I mean, it's business, I guess, but like, just the idea of just goodwill of understanding that
it's not. That's
but I'm saying, here's my thing. I understand that's for profit, but at the end of the day, like, for me, at least, and maybe, everyone doesn't think that way, but it's a win-win, because, like, if you can, establish and keep, that goodwill and those relationships, with your creatives, then, there's an opportunity to continue that relationship and can still, continue to make, profits or what have you. So, I don't think that there's a downside, to still being able to keep your folks happy. So, or the people that bring you,
I know we keep going, but I guess also if you look into it's, like I said, I know we got to go to the next topic, but I'll say one last thing. It's like, it sounds really similar to, like, the music industry. Think about it. Like, these Marvel owns, like, all those characters, all those stories, like, they have so many in there. So they already have a lot to choose from. They can be like, oh, I'm not saying that they should, but they can be like, we got another character, blah, blah, blah. They can just keep going on with other stuff, whatever. It's the same with, like, the music industry. When they sign a lot of these artists for these 360 deals or whatever, or these terrible deals you hear about, they own the masters usually for a long time. And like, I don't know if you just heard, De La Soul finally got their masters back so they can, stream it. But this is what they do. Unless you were like a Master P who like had a distribution deal, he owned his stuff and he got like 80%, but he got, he had a distribution deal. But a lot of people don't get those deals because they're just getting signed to like a record label. It's the same with like a movie company, and it's funny. Marvel kind of started off like that, but then they got bought by Disney. So now it's like even more corporate. So, I mean, it is what it is, but you're right. It's a win. It should be, you would think, win-win, keep as many people happy as possible. So you have that, but also from their perspective, they can just be like, hey, we own all these other stories and characters. We could just, it's not the end of the world. But you would just think for everybody to be sad. The more people that are happy, the more, everyone wins, the more money everyone makes. That's how I look at it. I just think that's always been. It's like, in the better product you make, the better movies you make, the better shows you make, more people are going to go see them. And they'll buy to me, it's the same. It's just, you can make the same argument. Why do people spend all this money on a bad big movie that makes money? It's like, there's good big movies that make even more money. And I could show several examples. So, but we're not executives. So
as you can see, we're super passionate about this topic. But what are your thoughts? Maybe you guys, feel differently about it. You can let us know just down below. But moving on to our next story, the next thing that made the rounds this week, in contrast to this story, regarded Robert Rodriguez signing a deal with HBO Max. So in the story, and hat tip to Deadline, he actually signed a 2-year deal with HBO Max, and there's some interesting caveats to this. So in the story, it specifies that he's going to be bringing some projects to HBO Max. However, his son Racer will actually act as the lead development executive under that agreement. So, I actually thought of you, Jerome, because I remember we were having this conversation of talking about Comic-Con and Comic-Con at Home. And I remember that panel that you mentioned in which you were talking about they had all these creatives at different, levels of the content, creating process. So, I mean, they had Robert Rodriguez. They had, and I'm brain farting on his name.
I think it's Joseph Krasinski, the guy who directed Oblivion.
Right? Yeah,
and the new Top Gun movie.
Right, exactly. And they were talking about their respective processes and the different challenges that they come across. Not too far from the mission of our show here, and trying to highlight a lot of those folks and their challenges and obstacles and doing what they do successfully. But one story that Robert got into was talking about the next generation, so to speak, and also passing along that knowledge to the next generation. And in that example, he talked about his kids and kind of shepherding or supporting their passion to tell stories. So what are your thoughts on this story of Rodriguez being able to have this new deal to do projects with HBO Max?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because, Joseph Kosinski, that's what that guy's name was.
Yeah.
His name is. I thought it was Krasinski. I was messing up. Anyway, it's interesting. I mean, just shows like I said, I've been saying it. I said it past episodes. I'll say it again. These big streaming companies and media companies, they're buying up as much A-list talent to develop programming, content, movies, TV show, whatever you want to call it, TV shows, series, as they can. And Rob Rodriguez, he's a big name and he's done a lot and he has his own style and brand. I thought it was kind of interesting because I know he has his own network, El Rey. So I guess he's they'll be doing different stuff on HBO Max. But hey, there's people in our next story, or one of our next stories to talk about the creator of Power who's with Stars, but now she has a deal with Netflix. So, people switch it up. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty cool, especially how he's including his son to run it. That's pretty cool though, because like if you think about it, I mean, imagine having your dad as Robert Rodriguez and like he's showing you all of everything he did, and I mean, he's grooming his kids.
I mean, shoot, that's film school right there.
I think his kids wrote. I think the story. What was it? That lava shark girl and lava whatever that was. That was like based off their kid's story. Like they got credit. So that's. I mean, come on. I mean, obviously, it's like that's not everyone's experience, but yeah, he's really like. I'm sure he's really like influenced them with what they could do as filmmakers, and they're getting like the best hands-on training from a pro. But that's cool though. I mean, how he's if his kids, like I said, really want to be really filmmakers and like doing this stuff, that's great. And if they're doing the development process at HBO Max, that's pretty cool. I'm just curious to know what he's gonna make for. It seems like it's what was it? I mean, it's going to be TV shows. I'm sure it'll be, let's see, high concept, original series. Okay, for potential original series. So maybe it's more like, it might be more TV shows. But yeah, I mean, he's a perfect fit for HBO Max. I'm just curious to know what's going to be developed over there compared to what he has on his network, because I know he had like a From Dusk Till Dawn series. I don't know if that's still going on, but it was on El Rey. But yeah, I mean, obviously HBO has more. You'll get bigger budgets and more financing and more leeway, and he could maybe experiment with different stuff. I mean, that's one thing that's cool about Rodriguez. I mean, he does. It's true. He has like, stuck to a similar genre for the most part, but he has like taken chances too. I mean, he did. I mean, obviously starting off with Mariachi, then that whole series of Spaghetti Western, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, but then also having like, to me, his best movie, I think, still From Dusk Till Dawn. I love that movie. Doing a horror flick with Tarantino, but then, with the Sin City films, adapting that, and then doing Machete with what do they call them? What they call those type of films? He said he called them, the 2 feet. His Planet Terror.
I know it's on the tip of my tongue.
Whatever, but Machete, the whole idea of like Machete becoming a spin-off, and like you have two of. I forgot what he calls it, but anyway, that style of filmmaking. He's good at doing a lot of that stuff, and then also doing the family. He did some kid movies. Even though I haven't even watched those Spy Kids movies, they made like
all over the place. Yeah, no, like yeah.
But I give him credit for like he's tried, and then he did stuff like what, like The Faculty, and he's done like and then he did Alita, Battle Angel. So I mean, but that's still in the vein of the stuff that he does. So, I'm assuming he'll probably still have some stuff like that, but I don't know. Maybe he'll take some chances too. I mean, that's his. Maybe do some different stuff, but he definitely has a style and his own genre and subgenres that he likes to he likes to execute on and just showcase his abilities on. So yeah, I mean I'm definitely interested to see what he's gonna do and what they're gonna develop. It's just curious to know. I'm just really curious to know what might be different over there compared to like his other network. I mean, so this is definitely.
I mean, it's interesting you brought that up, because I mean, he was quoted in this article, quoted as saying what drew him to doing this partnership is that idea of being able to have a meaningful collaboration, with a high caliber creative talent. And I mean, HBO Max, well, HBO more so in terms of their pedigree and what they've done prior. They have a arguably one of the best track records in terms of the properties that they have brought about. I mean, gosh, I can go down the list.
They started the whole golden era of TV, really.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and also Grindhouse. That's what I don't know why I didn't say Grindhouse.
Yes.
But anyway,
no, like just talking about a lot of those shows. Just just tipping the iceberg. I mean, just recently Game of Thrones. You have Watchmen,
The Wire.
But I'm saying like even yeah,
I know, but I'm saying Entourage.
This is crazy. You can keep going. I mean, and don't get me wrong. There are other channels, other
but they started
ones out there. But yeah, in terms of that pedigree, and
make cinematic television, basically. That's what everybody took that.
So I mean, it makes sense that he has made this collaboration. I'll just be interested to see, what comes of it. Because, just as you brought up, it's very often that you see a lot of times artists will get comfortable, and I think this is also due to the way the industry is. In speaking with creatives, whether they are writers, whether they are actors, one trend that I commonly come across is, I'll ask them, how do you decide, what projects you want to do? And oftentimes the answer that I get, mind you, in different ways or explained differently, but in terms of like the idea, the main idea is essentially the same, is that, well, a lot of times, I do this one character and it really, people really respond to it. And after doing that character, I normally get hit up about doing variations of that same exact character, because
you're proving the concept. That's basically what's happening.
You've proven that you can do it. So, Hollywood wants to just keep putting you in that role and putting you in that box. So, and I'm saying not just for actors. Like if you direct a film, or you write a screenplay that's in that vein, a lot of times you're going to be asked to do that same. Oh, can you do another version of this story? And it's great with Rodriguez that, just as you said, he has done all types of things. Like he's done, the ultra violent action films. He's done horror films. He's done, comic book
film noir. It's technically like a comic book film noir. That's what you can call it.
He's done family films. Like he's done all types of stuff. Yeah, he's done all types of things. So it is not really a place I feel that you can really pigeonhole him.
And technically he did do sci-fi, you're right. Yeah, Alita, he's on sci-fi.
Yeah, so like you can't really pigeonhole him into a box, and that's a great place to be as an artist, is to be able to show that you can do various things. So I'll just be interested to see what comes of those projects. And man, like to have your dad as as your film school, that is a pretty nice advantage to have, versus paying all that money to go to school. You have a walking, talking, film school that you see every single day. So that's a pretty cool advantage.
But not just a film, like a filmmaker, but like someone who knows how to make like amazing movies on the cheap. Like
for sure,
he's they're learning how to, like, because that's the thing that Rodriguez can make you. He can make $100 million. He can make a movie that's probably cost like $50 million look like it's $100 million. So that's how he operates. So. But yeah. But anyway.
So you tease this next story, so I will actually have you started off. But yes, just as Jerome was saying, there actually was another over this week, another deal that was made with this time with the creator, writer, and producer of the series of Power. So let me bring that over now. But yes, as I said, the creator, writer, and producer Courtney A. Kemp has entered a multi-year creative partnership with Netflix. So you hear this news, Jerome. What are your thoughts to start off and having another creative that is having a collaboration like this?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I was like, it's really cool seeing some of these deals, because I mean, obviously she got well-known. She became really well-known with Power. I mean, doing really well. And obviously it seemed like it was weird because it was like 50 Cent was executive producer. And then I think maybe his deal, I don't know the specifics, but it seems like he must be really getting most of the deal, or must be really highly integrated into the spin-offs of Power and all those other deals, maybe through his G-Unit television or G-Unit films. So that's why I just think it's amazing how they have those. I mean, it's kind of crazy how there's like 3 spin-offs on Power. There's like Power 2, Ghost. There's Power 3,
Raising Canon. Yeah,
Canon,
and then,
Power Book 4, Force, Power Book 5. And I guess the other ones, I know one of them was supposed to be about Tommy. I like the original Power. That was pretty good. And I actually like the Power Book 2 a little bit more because it's a little bit interesting. I didn't see all of it, but the first few episodes are cool. But the whole idea of like you know, for everyone, I think a lot of people associate Power with like 50 Cent, like, yeah, 50 Cent. And it's true. I mean, that's impressive how he's transitioned to that. But Courtney is actually like the creator of it. Like, so I guess they must have collaborated and she got her name out there. I mean, she's done other stuff before, but this really put her on the map as like a showrunner and creator of a big hit. And then to see her, I mean, she's still part of the spinoffs of Power, like associated with that. And I guess, you know, getting again, part of that partnership and executive producing them. But for her to also have her own, to get noticed also by Netflix and like, all right, now she has her own deal with them. Like that's how you do it. I mean, that's amazing. It's kind of like, I think there was a similar story with, I think Donald Glover's brother and I think the guy who co-wrote Black Panther with Ryan Coogler. I think they each got deals, their own deals for developing stuff based off of those projects. Because I think Donald Glover's brother, like, because he co-wrote like Atlanta with him, and then I think was it John Robert Cole or Joe, the guy who co-wrote Black Panther with Ryan Coogler. I think he got a separate deal. So it's just really, I just think that's great. It's like, even if you're not the main person behind whatever it is, or maybe you are, or maybe you're a co-worker, you're a co-collaborator, everybody's benefiting, and then they get their own. You know, you can get your spinoff deal or do whatever, and it just shows, like we were talking before, like, you know, hey, getting your name. If you're a comic book,
what are we talking about?
Say if you're a comic book creator like Jim Starlin, you get your name based off of your characters, then that has a lot of weight. So, you know, you're an executive producer on a hit TV show that pretty much is the life and blood of stars. I mean, that show, that's pretty much the life. I mean, it's Power and all their spinoffs, and now you have what they're doing. Well, now Blind Spotting has their own show, and there was that P Valley, but pretty much people watching, they were signing up for Stars to watch Power. Like, I mean, that had a lot of, those were the hardcore fans of that, that were subscribing to that. So that says a lot. I mean, that's amazing. And yeah, I mean, sometimes just you partner with the right people, you get the deal, you get a hit, you make it work, and then you can spin off your own thing off of that. And it's great to see. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean, there were other, there have been other shows on Stars. I would say right now, I would say in the last few years, it's definitely been the Powers universe, you know, as they have coined it, you know, with all of these spinoffs. Because I remember like way back, and I mean, even then, like we could probably speak to it because we went to a con specific or niche con related around the fandom, which was the Spartacus show. That was on Stars. And they did a lot, and they did like some spinoffs and different versions for that as well. And I mean, I think it's still going on, even though the show is, you know, long gone. You know, they still have things centered around that, and a lot of those fans have carried over into other things. As I believe Manu, who was one of the stars from that show, you know, he went on to do, you know, Deathstroke in the Arrowverse. So, and other characters have gone on to do other things as well, which is cool. But yeah, no, I think the big takeaway for me is something that that Kemp was quoted as saying, and just that idea of being able to tell multilingual, diverse stories. If we're able to provide a creative, you know, with more license and more freedom to be able to tell, or the opportunity to tell other stories that perhaps we don't commonly see, you know, I feel like that's a win-win. So I mean, for me, I think that's the thing that's pretty awesome about this, is that even aside from what we were talking about with Rodriguez, you know, this is a let me just make sure I'm confirming on that. But this is a multi-year deal versus just a 2-year deal. I know before we were saying 2-year deal, but no, like the potential here on the stories that could be told, you know, is pretty awesome. So I mean, that's the only real big thing for me that's pretty cool. You know, I have a lot of friends who watch Power and watch a lot of the shows in that universe. I still haven't gotten around to getting to it. I know a lot of folks saying, you got to watch Power. I will check it out. You guys have to understand that there are so many shows out there. I'm sure that there are shows that I watch consistently that you guys probably haven't gotten around to yourself. So in due time. But yeah, I would definitely get around to watching it, because I've been prodded and you know, well, you gotta watch the show. So I will check it out. I will check it out. But with that being said, anything to
add?
that
was Joe Robert Cole. I think I said Joe Robert Cole. That's the guy who co-wrote Black Panther. I was saying, but yeah, anytime I see deals like this, it just shows. It's like it brings up 2 points. It's like these big media companies, they're always give it out. There's no excuse to say, oh, there's no deal. There's always a deal to be made. They're always wanting content.
And then on top, and again, like
think about it, like you hear all these, you're just like, wow, man, they just got like unlimited money to keep making deals. But guess what? If they see value in what you've done, and you establish something, whatever, there's like unlimited, and that's why they also have they make these deals like limited, because they want to see what you develop and what you get, and then they can always change it. Because like I said, we were talking before, Kenya Barris, like he had a deal with Netflix, and then he changed his deal. I think he got out of it for whatever reason. So they do this too, so they can, it's a numbers game. The way I look at it is kind of like it's like a big business. After a business growing, and then after a while, they're like, instead of trying to like create everything or compete with other people, they're just like, oh, this is working. We're not going to compete. We're just going to buy you. And then you buy them, and then boom. And then long term, yeah, it might cost money up front. But then once you keep buying all these other entities or whatever, then you look at Disney. I mean, they're already big, and then they're just like, we're not going to compete. We're just going to buy Marvel.
I was going to say, can I be clear that they are buying their intellectual property? The way that sounded really bad.
Well, no, you know what I'm saying. But I'm saying that's what an entity. Yeah, but I didn't say it. But I'm saying, like, I equate it to like, just like you're buying someone's idea or you're giving them a deal, you're spending all this money to acquire, develop stuff. It's kind of like a big company buying. Yeah, if you develop a proof of concept. I'm not saying people, man. I'm saying. I'm saying ideas at an entity, man. Oh, what's going on? What's in your mind, man?
I got you, man. But no,
I got you. I'm just saying, it just shows that it seems like there are opportunities and there's money out there for this, but you got to prove yourself and show that you have a hit, or you establish yourself, and then they come to you. And then also, what was the other point is they are looking for more diverse talent, which is great in all these companies. So it's great. It's great seeing these opportunities happen, and there's more to come.
All I can say, man, it just goes back to what we were talking about, is that, again, guys, it's a win-win. Like, try to keep your creatives happy and work with your creatives, so that way you can continue to have collaborations that, bear fruits. Like, it's a win-win. But again, moving on. These two past stories are proof of that. I know we were talking about the comic industry, but I mean, it's still relative in terms of having that collaboration. All right, so this Friday, and it actually was announced at the top of the week, but it actually happened yesterday. Is Roku added 23 originals to its slate. So you're probably asking yourself, for those of you that are not, I'm assuming, all of you guys out there are familiar, with Roku, but just for the few that aren't, it was launched back in 2017, has assembled a lineup of 40,000 or so films and TV titles, as well as 200 live linear channels. And let's see, as of since their launch in May, they have accounted for up to, according to the story that we have, again, from Deadline, they've accounted for 5 of the top TV shows streamed on the channel between May 20 and July 18. So you guys are probably asking yourself, what are these shows that will be premiering premiered as of yesterday on Roku Originals. The shows include And Music, the Andy Cohen Diaries, Benedict Men, Elba versus Block, Eye Candy, Fierce Queens, Floored, Gone Mental with Liar, Mapleworth Murders, Memory Hole, Nice One, Nikki Fresh, Run the City, The Sauce, Sex Next Door, Singled Out, Skirt with Offset, Squeaky Clean, and let me see, The Stranger, Survive, Thanks a Million.
You're naming all of them.
Season 2. Yeah, I mean, we have 2 more. Yeah. So What Happens in Hollywood and Wireless. Now, I mean, there are a couple in there, to add, some further details on, but man, 23 originals. What do you think of this slew of content that has, dropped in on Roku as of yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was interesting. It's like, I'm gonna be honest, like I know we were talking about this off screen. Like I don't even know if I have Roku on my TV, but I just think it's I know that you can get the Roku. You probably have to get the Roku streaming box or whatever. Kind of like the Fire Stick or whatever, Amazon Fire Stick or Apple TV or whatever. But yeah, I just think it's an interesting story because like they're using a different model. And because they acquired a lot of those Quibi shows that weren't released because Quibi shut down after a few months, so what, 6 months or something, I don't know, or a couple of months. It shows that like even if the network or your platform shut down originally that you were supposed to show air your content, it can go somewhere else and still be a hit. And someone else, like there's still value in what you make and what someone creates, especially if people are spending the money and for the, A-list talent to create these movies or shows or unscripted series or whatever. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, how they have 23 series. I mean, that they're putting out, they're probably start spending more money on their own stuff in addition after they've exhausted all the Quibi, because it's the Quibi content they acquired, because it says along with 18 other titles from the trove of Quibi shows acquired from the defunct mobile streaming outlet in January, Roku will also premiere 3 other new originals. Then you were mentioning them. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty cool, and it's just good for this is why it's like such a good time for creators and filmmakers, writers, producers, directors, because it's another outlet, another another platform to show your stuff. So I mean, their model is, it seems like they aren't charging people right now. It looks like it's just free. But yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe they might have like a premium model later or whatever. It's just interesting seeing these different business models too, because and we're seeing kind of like what sticks and what is working better. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to only go to Netflix or HBO Max or Disney Plus or Amazon Prime, or was it Paramount Plus or Peacock? There's Roku.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so I'm just saying, like, and some people may not know about some of these either. We're like, hey, well, I didn't know that. Why not? It's another place to put your stuff.
I mean, I'm familiar with Roku. I'm just not familiar with many of these shows. And again, it goes back to that theme of you just cannot watch everything. It is just not possible. But
people are obviously watching, so it's like
But,
so that's good.
But I guess the other takeaway here is just that idea of content. Just being able to supply your viewers with more than enough content to be able to compete, just as you said, with those competitors. So, I mean, doesn't hurt, I should say, to have more content in any situation. I know a lot of times it's argued across the various streaming platforms, and I won't give out any names. Sometimes, it's better to have quality versus quantity, in some cases, because sometimes it's like, how did that make it there? But you
gotta remember, it depends on they're also doing that for different audiences, because like you and I might not think is quality. I mean, yeah, there's some things that aren't. There's stuff that they do specifically for people who want to, like, it's like with Netflix. I'll give you an example. I'll say Netflix. Like they have a whole line of reality shows. Maybe you don't care about whatever. I mean, I might watch once in a while, like, oh, that's cool. What is it? The one with the houses or whatever. But whatever, they do that because they want to compete with Bravo, who has all those Real Housewives of you name it. And if Netflix can keep all those people watching Netflix for any of those types of shows or whatever, then they win. Like that's you know what I'm saying? So, but you're right. Like some people be like, why the hell is this stupid show on there? But it's for that audience. They want to get all.
There's an audience for it somewhere.
The only thing about Netflix that they haven't gotten to, or they don't seem like they really want to get into, is like live stuff, and that's where it's interesting seeing the other platforms take advantage of. It's gonna be interesting to see who might really win that area, because I think whoever finalizes and shows that they can solidify the live, like sports and maybe concerts or whatever, I think that'll be the final nail in the coffin for like normal networks, because then there's gonna be like no reason to watch regular TV. I mean, maybe for the most part, because think about it. I mean, we watch news. That's true. You can still watch news, but people get their news now from like the internet or whatever. I mean, you can watch almost anything online. So,
well, I mean, you do have some element of that. I mean, or if not, it's on its way. Because if I recall, and if I remember, like with Hulu, you know, you have some add-ons there where because it is affiliated with Disney Plus and with ESPN, like you can actually have that add-on and still utilize Hulu, or to say, if you haven't yet, it will soon become available where you can utilize Hulu in order to access ESPN. So
the thing is, it's still
right around the corner.
I think it's still part of. It's still utilizing it through that network. That's what I'm saying. So it's like if somebody, because you know how like the NFL, I mean, they get so much money every year or whenever for selling the rights to the different networks, and and rightfully so, because all those networks, they can charge a ridiculous amount of money for their the advertising. That's why Super Bowl, they can charge $5 million, $6 million for whatever the cost is for 30 seconds or a minute.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, when instead of it going to all those networks, because those networks can farm out their live stream to whatever, you know, platform, their streaming service, whatever. They can figure that out, like through YouTube TV or through Hulu or whatever. They can figure out some way to have it, but it's still, they own it, and it's going through their like network, whoever has the rights for those games or whatever. I'm just saying, once that gets eliminated, and say like the NFL is like, hey, we're just going to sell our rights to like Facebook or I don't know, or YouTube, or I don't know, you name it, Hulu. Maybe it was just Hulu, or maybe it was just Netflix. Imagine that. Oh man. Or maybe, you know, or just ESPN. That's what I'm saying. When that happens, something like that happens, I feel like that's going to be like almost the death of traditional TV or cable TV. Because then it's like, I just feel like there's not really a reason to watch, you know, to have to pay for regular cable. You could just get these streaming services, and then that's substituting it. So I feel like that's the last thing that they're holding on to, but it's going to depend on, you know, the business models and like the deals and you know, all that stuff. But
for sure. All right. So the next two stories, I guess you can say, are interconnected, if you will. So this week, there was news that that AMC and WB are going to be, they have agreed to a shortened theatrical window. To be more specific, that window will essentially be, let's see, let me see if I can see this story here.
45-day window.
45 days, 45-day window. So 2 months. Well, not even that. About a month and a half. Yeah, a month and a half now. So So in thinking of like that shortened window, and I mean, there's so many caveats to this in terms of how people are watching. Well, a couple of things. How people are watching their content. So how people are watching their movies these days. Now that there are more opportunities, just as we've been saying in the other stories, that, you know, we have streaming available. We've had a lot of dual releases happening. But with more recent things, I know we were talking about just last week about, you know, the lawsuit between Johansson and Disney, and you know, all of those factors of having creatives being properly provided, you know, compensation for what they do. What are your thoughts on this this new deal that has been struck between AMC and WB for what I understand, it will be for the 2022 slate?
Yeah, my question is, how long is that going to last? But it's something, because think about it. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what HBO Max says. I don't care what movie theaters say. I don't care what commentary. Think about it. The cat's out of the bag. Now, this is like a testing year of this crazy experiment, which I don't care what anybody says. HBO Max, what they've done, it's nice for the consumers and it's convenient. It's really beneficial to themselves and the money they're making with the streamers. But nobody can deny that. I don't care who you are. Nobody can deny that HBO releasing a movie on HBO Max and in theaters, it's affecting the box office. Like, we saw the Suicide Squad. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but the Suicide Squad did not make nearly as much money as it probably could have if it was only in theaters. And also if they charge people like with Disney, at least with Disney Plus, since Black Widow declined drastically the next weekend, at least it made that 60 million on Disney Plus. Now, how they rework that or whatever, that's up to the lawyers and talent agents and the filmmakers and stars and the executives. But what's it called? This is good to get back to that sort of 45 days, and I think it's reasonable because times have changed and people are getting accustomed to these shorter theatrical windows or just being able to see something conveniently at their home. But I mean, I feel like HBO Max is still going to look at they're going to look at all the data for this past year and then see like, hey, did we how many people were watching these movies and subscribed? And they're going to look at how much money they're making there and compared to the budgets. I'm sure they're going to look at like, all right, maybe our bigger movies, maybe it might benefited more being at the box office, or maybe that could help that. But I feel like then I don't know what's going to happen after 2022, because it's like, are consumers going to be like, hey, wait a second, why are you switching it up, man? I wanted to see this in my home. It was free. No, I don't want, like it's once you start doing something for people and then it becomes normal for a year. I know the exception was because of COVID or whatever, but it doesn't matter what the reason is. When you start giving people something and they get accustomed to it,
not going to go. Yeah, they're not going to want to go back. You give people an inch, they want to take them out.
Give two other examples that are related to movie theaters. And we know specifically because we interviewed the executive, the owner of iPic. No, he's not anymore, but remember iPic? They went hard with the luxurious accommodations. Guess what? Oh, AMC and Regal. They started up in their game. Now you go to most movie theaters, you got to really go to a crappy movie theater to get like some terrible seats. But like almost every movie theater now has nice reclining seats. You can order some food. Okay, maybe you can't all get alcohol, but yeah, there's McGuffin's bar at AMC. Well, how long was that around? I don't remember that being there before. I know there was the I didn't go to it, but the what was it? The Arlington Draft House, but there's the Alamo Draft House. They did stuff like that too.
And also, to be fair, Landmark did that also too.
Yeah, no, but to the extent that iPic was doing it with that reclining seat and the blank. I mean, I feel like at that level there was other chains. I guess some maybe doing that. Like it got to the point where like the big chains had to be like, all right, we got to up our game. So now it's normal. Now you go to a movie theater, you're like, oh, I'm expecting the reclining seat. I'm expecting I could maybe order better food than not just popcorn. Instead of just popcorn and drinks or whatever, I can order like actual meal. I can maybe order alcohol. Okay, maybe not everywhere, but it's getting closer. And then the other example, I know we've been talking about this before, Movie Pass. Remember Movie Pass was $60 a month or something like that, and no one really cared about it. They lowered that price to $10. Lots of publicity. Everybody like, I got the Movie Pass, man. I maxed that out, got all these free movies. Then it didn't work out. Oh, guess what happened? AMC has their own version. Regal has their own version. Now, I don't pay, when I go to a movie, I don't pay $15, $16. I pay my monthly fee, and I go see like a whole bunch of movies. I don't want to go back to, I could go back and watch on Sunday morning. I used to go Sunday mornings and watch a movie because it'd be way cheaper. But you can't go back. And I feel like it's going to be the same sort of thing with this HBO Max deal. I mean, Disney, I don't know. Well, we'll see what Disney's not ready to let go, but of that $30 model, even though we were talking about Shang-Chi, I guess, I don't know. That's debatable. They're saying maybe they don't want to do that, but I don't know. I feel like since HBO Max let the cat out of the bag, it's going to be hard to go back to this day and date release. Unless there's legal repercussions, but it's hard. It's just hard for a consumer. When you're given something and you're used to it, why do you feel like you're losing something? So I don't know. I worry how long this is going to last. And like I said, it's ever changing. It's changing the whole game. And it's kind of sad because I'm a big fan of the theatrical experience. I know you are too.
Yeah.
I want movie theaters to survive. I still think there's a place for them, but I feel like more and more of these decisions where the theatrical window might be getting shorter, or maybe if it's harder for movie theaters to be profitable. They're gonna have to find other sources of revenue probably in addition, or maybe, to what they're doing now. But the harder it gets for them to generate more revenue, it's going to be, I think it increases the chance of theaters becoming more of a niche experience in the future, where it might be like you might see only certain movies. It's like the ticket prices probably eventually we're going to go up even more, and it might be like, hey, you're going to see like this. Like I said, it's got to be an IMAX. I mean, IMAX is doing well, but they're giving you that experience. So I don't know. It's I'm glad that it's happening. They negotiated, but I just feel like it's gonna be. I don't know how long it's gonna last.
Like I say, I understand all the reasonings behind it. I mean, they all make sense on why they've come to this agreement. Both more recently and what has happened in the past, as I mentioned before. So it'll just be interesting, just as you said, if it sticks. I mean, and then on top of that too, it made me beg initially, before we get into the next story, it made me beg the question, okay, how are you going to generate the necessary revenue in order to keep the theaters open with a finite window like this? But I feel that is a great segue into the next part of this, which is the idea that AMC revealed that they will also be accepting Bitcoin soon. And not only Bitcoin, but other payment methods such as Apple Pay, and paying for your movie going experience. So, good on AMC for providing customers with as many options as possible for their movie patrons, for their folks that come to each of their facilities every single year to see their movies, to pay for their concessions, which for those of you out there, if you're not aware, where most movie theaters generate a lot of their profits from, it's not actually from the movies, it's actually from the concessions. You probably always asking yourself, gosh, this is really expensive. It's expensive because it is going towards the movie theater that you are supporting. But in that, I mean, normally with a really big blockbuster film, back in the day, can't believe we're already at that point. We're saying back in the day, like if it was generating enough revenue, a theater would hold it for 2 to 3 months, almost sometimes even longer than that. Like sometimes even 5 or 6 months, half a year, because it's still, bringing in revenue. But, now that we're having this month and a half, not even 2 months, month and a half, window, it changes the game forever with any film, regardless of if it's a blockbuster or not. And it's really going to be a lot of pressure on these films to be able to generate the amount of expected profits that they might have been able to recoup, in a longer run. And then on top of that too, not just the movies themselves, but the movie theaters that were hoping to, squeeze as much concession revenue out of that film that they kept for, 5 months, 6 months, what have you. So, that part of it is interesting to me. I mean, I like I said, it's good that you're providing these other alternatives, which maybe will get more people to go to their theaters if there are more options available to them to pay. But still, it raises all those questions that I'll be fascinated to see how it plays out, going into what they have for that 2022 slate.
But I will say that I think it makes more sense. I mean, I don't think it's completely bad though for the theaters, because I think it was Universal. They had a deal where it's like they had stipulations. So they're like, if the movie makes a certain amount of money, for a certain amount of weekends, they'll still keep it in the theaters. But then the movies that don't make a certain amount of money, then they get kicked out of theaters. Because you also got to remember, there's some theaters, I don't know the exact deals they make, but some of the deals are like they might sometimes just have to keep a movie playing for a certain amount of time, even if it's not doing well. And it's like, if a movie's not doing that well after a while,
sometimes it'll get packaged. Yeah, sometimes it'll.
But the thing is, like, there's some movies where it's like you see, there's like 2 people, and like they're wasting that theater if like only 2 people. Like, I mean, they'll cut down on theaters, but it's like there's a certain time where it's like, all right, why is it we still playing this movie when it's not making any money? So, you got to think about the movie theaters, the studios, but also the consumer, because it's like, there's certain movies you want to see in the theaters maybe more than others. But that's also why you have like specialty theaters, independent theaters, theaters that show maybe like smaller films or whatever, and you have that option too. But not every city has that. So, but yeah, I mean, And then also for marketing, a lot of the studios are big on this because they don't want to have to spend money on another marketing campaign when it gets released on, not DVDs still, barely people. DVD's not as big as it used to be, but it's like DVD and then cable, streaming services or pay-per-view or just home viewing. So they usually would have to have another campaign spending all this money. So this helps. So they can just do one campaign and it's good enough. Boom. All right, 45 days, and then they're good. And that's good too. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I feel like this is going to be more the norm. I'm not completely against it, but yeah, I'm just wondering how like people are going to react to this when they're accustomed to being able to see it on HBO Max. And also, I will say, even with Disney Plus, it's like I was talking to my sister about this yesterday. Shout out to Joelle again, Patreon member. What's it called? I was talking. I was like, like me or you, for the most part, we're probably not going to spend $30 to watch a Disney Plus Marvel movie because I'd rather see, if I was going to spend nearly any amount of that money, I'd rather see
in the movie theater.
But it's not a deal for either of us because it's like it's just us. But technically, if you have a family of 4 or 5, or you got like 10 people to come to your house and you pay $30, you're paying like $3 a per. Like they're not making as much money as they could have if it was in the movie theater. So, but it's a compromise. It's like how many people are watching it with a family as opposed to just one person. And that's also another good point about the whole, we were talking about last week with Scarlett Johansson, and then you could even make the argument with HBO Max, what they're gaining, even though they're not charging. The idea of, yeah, you might be getting some people, but what is the trade-off of how much money the movie would have really made, even with that price point, So it's kind of like they're making kind of a weird trade-off where it's like they got to make it can't be too cheap if they do charge like Disney Plus, but it can't be too expensive because like if you have a family, but think about it, if you had a family of 4 or 5 and you're paying let's say 4 people, you paid $30. That's like what, close to $7 a person. You go to like a theater tonight. The price is like at least $13. Unless you go in the morning on a Sunday, even the morning show, you're still paying like a little bit more, and then it's concession. So it's like
a family can drop $100 easy.
Exactly. So there, it is a deal technically seeing at home, even for that $30 if you have a family. But if not, it's not really. And then the people, I think about the people who have HBO Max, they're probably like, man, I got a really good deal. Don't have to pay anything. So yeah, I don't know. It's it's just interesting to see. Netflix has increased their monthly fee a little bit. That's different. That's like after a while, hey, they just start gently, slowly increasing it. But give it, getting to see a new movie on your streaming service and you're paying like what? I think it's like $15 a month.
No, I hear you.
That's a really good deal.
Like that's a really good deal. It'll be just like this year was, and for all intents and purposes, an experiment of how that dual release was going to work. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out next year with how it's going to work.
And last thing I will say, also, last thing I will say is because also with the Delta variant, depending on where you are in the country, I know we didn't talk about this in a separate article. They pushed back Venom 2.
Yeah, they did.
I'm just saying, and this is also HBO Max did this. It's like you don't know, like some of these other movies, if it gets worse and like people don't want to go to theaters as much. This is HBO Max's backup plan. That's why when we were talking about Shang-Chi, I know we were slightly talking about that. Is Disney not going to charge the $30 or not? Sometimes, they might have to switch it up because if less people are going to the theater, then all right, we got to make money somewhere else. We get subscribers. So this thing is like this. We're not out of this pandemic. People say post-pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, man. There's other variants coming. So if people are, I know I've been to the theaters. I've been to theaters a few times now, and I've been fine. I know you've been, and I've seen it's been packed or whatever. But that's also, depending on what city you are, if a lot of people are vaccinated or not. Some parts of the country, man, people are, it's getting worse with the rates of people getting infected. And then it's like, if that's happening, are people going to feel safe going to theater still? And I know it's dropped off a little bit. So it's like, if that keeps happening and then you're pushing back some movies, this whole thing could change
It's
too. We don't know.
it's constantly
Still could
evolving,
change.
man. It's
It can still
constantly
change. So
evolving.
there's a lot of stuff going on still with this pandemic. So, but it's a really weird times, man. But
no kidding, man.
Just want to keep the theaters alive. I'm all for keeping the movies alive.
Keep the theaters alive, guys. I love my movies too. So, but kind of in lieu of a story that we had a little earlier, we were talking about Roku having a whole slew of originals that dropped yesterday. It seems like another company is following suit or will soon follow suit. So this week it was announced that Marvel, unsurprisingly, will be planning several animated shows. So I know a lot of you guys, well, hopefully, I'm assuming a lot of you guys had a chance to watch the What If series that arrived this past Wednesday, the first episode, which went into a variation of Captain America. That's all I'll say. I don't want to get into spoilers. I want you to be able to enjoy it. I know it was in the trailer, but I'll let you still, enjoy, how it is a variation or how they kind of went off to an alternative version of the Cap story. But you hear this, Jerome. Like I said, it's a no-brainer. It makes perfect sense, why this would be something that's planned. But what are your thoughts?
No, I think it's great. I mean, I laugh on the article. I guess they're talking about Marvel Studios, and because they've had animated stuff before.
Yeah, I know.
What is this like? But I guess maybe it was technically Marvel. It wasn't Marvel. It's the way I'm just like, come on, man. And it was with the X-Men series. Obviously, that was with Fox, and then but there was X-Men, there's Spider-Man. Remember Fantastic Four, there's Iron Man, Incredible Hulk. Yep. Mm-hmm. Silver Surfer. There's tons of anime. So like
the Avengers. A lot of people want to try to forget that Avengers cartoon.
If you go on Disney Plus, you can see a lot of those on there anyway. So that's why I'm laughing at this article a little bit. I'm just like, this is the first time.
I don't mean the most recent guys, because the Disney Plus, the what is it? The Disney XD ones, Avengers shows are awesome. I'm talking about the old Fox one that didn't even have like the founding Avengers in it. I guess it was more like West Coast Avengers, I guess. But
I guess technically, I guess they're saying MCU. Okay, yeah, all right. If you want to say MCU, we can say that. But I'm just like, come on, man. One of the best, to me, the best. Well, I guess you could say neck and neck. Well, I would say the best Marvel show ever was the animated show was the X-Men. I'm sorry, to me that's the best one. I love that.
I love that X-Men show. That's
I think it was the best. Even if it had some it had some great episodes in there. That's the best.
That Spider-Man one was awesome.
Nah, Spider-Man was good. No, Spider-Man was good, but I think X-Men was better. But the one I would say that's comparable, obviously. What?
And they had those crossovers when they had but they did
a
Secret Wars one. They did. You don't remember Secret Wars, man? Like Secret Wars was like that.
No, I did, but that crossover wasn't. I don't think it was as good as it. They could have had better crossovers, I think, but it was still good. It was the whole thing with what was his name? The Spider Slayer guy and the. It was.
Yeah. I know.
That was. It was not bad because they had the X-Men, but I'm just like, I'm just talking about. There's so many X-Men stories that they haven't even touched. They haven't even touched. They haven't even touched.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's true. No, you're right. But there's so many X-Men stories they haven't even touched yet in live action that are in the cartoon. And even though that's still based on the comics, I don't care. Like I like that adaptation of it. Even if some stuff there's some goofy stuff, but most of it was good. But anyway, going back on point.
Yeah.
Bringing back
tangents. But go ahead.
No, I think it's great. And it's inevitable. What If? I like the What If series. I like this episode. That was pretty good. I won't mention. This is pretty self-explanatory when you look at the episode. It tells you what it's about. But I remember the comic series, and there's a whole bunch that are interesting that they could do. But doing a spin, having all these, just a bunch of other animated series, I think is great too, because like I said, they can do some of these other, these other series and stories, maybe based off of stuff that is not as well known, or they can be more experimental, and you can do that with animation. Look at that Spider-Man movie that was so good, Into the Spider-Verse. That was so actually that's proof. It's like the next Spider-Man movie seems to be just like the live action version of that. We don't know yet, but it's like, I'm sure that that movie doing so well and winning an Oscar, you know what I'm saying? Like, but trying to just do that out of nowhere in the live action would be a lot harder. But you can get away with a lot with animation, and that movie was a perfect example of that. I mean, I wouldn't even think about, hey, a Spider-Man movie where you have all these other Spider-Mans. I'm like, why the hell would I care about that? But they pulled it off, though. I mean, they did a good job. So I feel like you can do more stuff like that, some even crazier, wacky stuff with animation. And then, I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, they could start out. They could test some characters too with that and see if people like it and see what the ratings are, and then bring them over. And I also like how they're in the What If series. They're bringing in Jeffrey Wright doing the voice of the Watcher, even though they had the cameo at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which wasn't really. It was just like a little bookend, but it would be cool if like he actually does the voice now, like of the the live action Watcher that they bring in. This, I'm sure they. And I like how they brought they have the actual actors from the live action series in the
for the most series, part.
So yeah, I feel like they could. Yeah, I mean most of them. I mean, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. I think that's pretty much gonna be his last, project that he actually participated in, which is sad. But at least he got to do that. You could say that's his 5th time playing Black Panther or T'Challa or whatever. So hey, that counts. But I feel like that's what they could do. Because that's the thing. Like, What If works perfectly as an animated series anyway. So you didn't need to do this with real people, and I think it's fine. And you can get away, like I said, you can get away with a lot with animation. So, I think it's funny. I think the opposite. I know we're talking about Marvel, but the opposite is like I feel like DC needs to learn from their animated shows and movies, and like incorporate that, make their live action series like. I mean, they've done it sometimes, but they can learn a lot from the people who created the animated series. So like
I don't know. I would say
the Batman animated series.
Yeah.
That was fire.
Yeah. So I mean, it's that series. I mean, even what they did with, even though
I haven't seen all the movies, but. Yeah.
No, yeah, but I'm saying like those DC Universe animated movies have been really good. I don't know if you've seen.
That's what I'm saying. I haven't seen all those, but I heard but the Suicide Squad one obviously wasn't the same. But like I could tell that they took a lot. But I'm saying like they haven't been as consistent with the live action films.
Yeah, that's fair.
Compared to the animation, and I'm just saying. You would think that the execs at Warner Brothers or whatever and DC would be like, hey man, they're doing a good job here. Let's let some of these people, work on that. So, or develop stuff for the live action stuff, or just like try to like take some of those stories and those ideas. And I feel like James Gunn pretty much, he kind of did that also with the last Suicide Squad, at least with some of the characters he put in there. I mean, it's not exactly like that. I mean, maybe if they do another, I don't know if they could do another one now because of how much it made, but if they did like that Arkham, the one where they go to art, like that was, I love that one. I thought it was good. So, maybe, Marvel is they're doing a lot better with the live action stuff. So they can probably do even more experimental stuff with the animated stuff. And then maybe, do integrate some of those characters in. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know. Like, I mean, you probably know more about some of these.
Well, I was going to say just in general, yeah, I'm gonna say just in general, the takeaway for me here is 2 things. Like you commented on it just before, is just that idea that we've had all of these awesome. It's funny, that they are saying that, oh, we're doing these cartoons, and I'm like, just as you said, like they've been doing it, but I think the caveat here is before, they were kind of off. They were very much what ifs. They were off doing their own thing. And I think the difference here is we already have established the caliber of storytelling that Marvel has done. So, in doing that, there's already an expectation that has been set with audiences of what to, expect from Marvel. And then at the same time too, even though they are what if stories, they still have some semblance of connection to the other content. The ones that we, have been, holding reverence for before, they were, like I said, they were all off doing their own thing, and they were all ancillary. And I think in doing and them being ancillary that way is that, while there were some that were awesome, there were others that ran the danger of just kind of being forgotten and not not thought of. Because like I said, I'll bring up that Fox Avengers show, and like I said, even though I prefer the Disney Avengers one, I also bring up, I don't know if you remember this, the futuristic Spider-Man one. It was like
2099 or something.
2099 that they used to.
I think I saw some of that.
Yeah, it didn't last that long, but like, and in my opinion, I mean, I preferred the regular animated series over that. But I mean, people like that
DC
story.
did a good job with Batman Beyond, though.
I'll give you that. I will give you that. That was awesome. So
I think that was dope. Yeah,
but yeah, I think that's. I think that's
so
what the difference. I think that's what the difference is here, though. Because I mean, even with the what if stories, like I said, even though they are ancillary stories, because we've just had Loki that has introduced that idea of nexus events, and it works and coalesce with that story very well. So like you can enjoy that almost as if it's a connected story, because you're gonna say, "Oh, these were all the branches that
was
were
a good
created.
transition. That's a good transition.
Yeah. So. Or you know, you can not watch any of them and still enjoy it and just watch What If as it is. But we didn't have that luxury before where it was just ancillary like that. So I think that's the key, you know, in what we have here, and we'll see what comes of it. You know, like I said, they're firing on all cylinders. Hopefully, it can continue to fire on all cylinders, and that, you know, we can continue to have those collaborative processes continue to work and be, you know, fruitful. But yes, moving on to our last story, also deals with Disney Plus, or say deals with Disney, but the story is Disney Plus related, and that's the idea that over this week it was made known that Disney Plus reached 116 million subscribers. So, Jerome, 116 million. I know that they had a whole bunch of like goals set on, oh, we're going to reach, you know, this plateau and by this time. And if I recall correctly, you know, thinking back on that, what is it, conference that Disney did?
D24?
No, not not that one. Their own one. Yeah. The shareholders one. I believe it far exceeds. I mean, I'll look back at the video, but this far exceeds, you know, where they expected, where they are anticipating they would be.
Well, they were thinking 112 million. Well, Wall Street they forecast 112.8 million for the period. That's what it says in the article.
But amazing. So far, you know, blowing it out of the water. You know, what's your thoughts on them reaching this this plateau or this goal?
Netflix, watch out. I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, Disney's not playing. I mean, I was just looking around. Yeah, you know, I was actually looking at some other articles too, and it's like, just to be accurate, yeah. I mean that it just shows. Yeah, I mean, Netflix is at 209 million global paying subscribers. They're up 1 million from last quarter, according to the CNBC article I was looking at. 73.95 million subscribers in US and Canada. And Disney has 116 million. I mean, okay, they're not there yet, but I mean, they're getting there. But you also got to remember, Disney doesn't just own Disney Plus, so they also have, ESPN and Hulu for the most part. So those, I think, if you add all of them up together, I mean, that's not really completely fair if you want to compete. I mean, compare for competition when it comes to competing with other streamers. I think it's what it says. This trio of streamers had 173.7 million total customers at the end of the quarter versus 101.5 million in the year ago period. And that includes, it says Hulu subs grew 21% to 42.8 million and ESPN plus 75% to 14.9 million. So, okay, you know, they own all those streamers. So, I mean, they're drastically growing them. Obviously, they're not at Netflix's level, but think about it. I mean, when did Disney Plus come out? I mean, Disney Plus came out, was it like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Was it like 2 years ago?
Right. Exactly.
I think I remember. And it's like Netflix has been out for a while. So this brings me back to my point as why Netflix is they're spending all this money on content to have this exclusive stuff that you can't find anywhere else, because they need to continue growing their viewership, and they're plateauing a little bit now because of the competition that's catching up with them. Even though Netflix had a big head start when when you have a company like Disney that has amazing, intellectual property, amazing entities, subsidiaries with content that, and including films, TV shows, documentaries, whatever. But with those brands such as Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and National Geographic, I mean, it's like a no-brainer. I mean, and especially when we were talking about with Marvel, they keep releasing all these different shows. I mean, it's crazy. Of course, because of the pandemic, but like, I mean, what we've had so far, we had WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, now What If, and then later on they're going to release Hawkeye, and I think Ms. Marvel, maybe. I don't know what. And then you have the movies. You have at least 4 movies this year. That's a whole bunch of new shows and movies coming out that people, people would love. Fans and people maybe on the fence of subscribing to Disney Plus are probably going to be like, hey, yeah, I'll pay for at least a year. We'll see how it is. And then you see all the other stuff on there. Why not? And it's not that much money either. The price point is low. So I feel like they're going to, I don't know when exactly, but I mean, I would say if they keep this up in another 2 years, they're probably going to be, they'd probably be at the same level as Netflix. So
yeah,
all I know is that's why Netflix is also increasing. They're trying to increase their viewership. I mean, their subscribers internationally, because that's where they're seeing more growth. I think that's why you see a lot of stuff they have on there with like that's like Indian related, or maybe or for different territories, because there's big audiences there that if you're producing stuff that those different demographics want to watch, like they'll subscribe to the Indian version of Netflix or whatever. Or I know like in different countries, like my sister's in South Korea, like they have a Korean, they have like a Korean version, and there's like, I mean, every country I think has like their own version. So I think if Netflix, they're going to probably keep trying to increase their spending of specific content for those different countries and regions, and that's going to help them continue to grow. But on the domestic front, it's harder because it's like a lot of, you have more competition, and Disney's gaining traction. And then not only Disney, I mean, you have these other, Apple TV Plus, you have Amazon, you have HBO Max, Peacock, Paramount Plus. Everybody's trying to get a piece of the pie. I mean, the other ones they're growing a lot slowly compared to the big dogs, but it just shows how impressive it is having that name Disney or Marvel or Pixar or what is it, Lucasfilm, Star Wars attached. Like you can persuade people to sign up based off of one of those brands, just like you could persuade people to pay $6,000 to go to that Star Wars hotel. Name recognition, branding. You have very high quality, hardcore fan base brands. You can get people to pay for your service, and they've executed, and they've shown that they can deliver.
And I was going to say, to add to that, or say second it, is just that idea of, with all the properties that you have, trying to find ways to still stay within the universe of the worlds that you have ownership of, but trying to find or mine interesting stories within those universes. So it's one thing that I feel is that they have really seemed to figure out is, okay, we have this IP, we have Star Wars, we have Marvel, we have
Pixar.
Pixar. We have all of these things. And we have all these franchises that are household recognizable franchises. How can we still appease or have keep the audiences happy that love these or fandoms of these properties, but yet still tell new stories or interesting stories within that umbrella? Mm-hmm. So yeah. Going back to what I just commented on about the shareholder event that they did, and talking about, man, like if I had a nickel for all the different Star Wars spinoffs that they announced, like it seemed like it was endless in terms of like all those different stories that they were planning on telling. And I mean, mind you, just keep this in mind, is that more than likely, if I understand, like they're going to all hold true within the universe. So like they're not going to be, even though they're going to be brand new stories, there's going to be opportunities for crossover. So you're going to have a lot of these characters that, maybe you love from one show being able to interact with characters on a different show. And that's not just with what people expect from the MCU and the Marvel universe of what we have with these Marvel shows, but it's going to happen with these Star Wars shows too. So like, sky's the limit in terms of the cross-pollination that can happen in those instances. Because, whenever you're, we have those instances of water cooler conversations, when you're at work and, you have those water cooler conversations when it deals with sports. But I mean, in the geek, and what I'm saying, in the geek related realm, that's those same conversations happen when, oh, what if this character meets this character, or what if this character fights this character, or what would happen if they were in the same room together? How would they interact together? We're going to get that in spades with a lot of these shows that we have. So, that plays into why, they are getting the subscription base that they're getting. Any final thoughts before we?
Yeah, Disney needs to make his money back. I mean, think about it. They spent $4 billion on Marvel and $4 billion on Lucasfilm. Yeah. They probably already made their money from Marvel. I would think Star Wars too, but maybe in Star Wars, they got to, make more. Well, maybe on the merchandise they probably. But I'm just saying, it's like I feel like Marvel has so many different characters that were doing well, whatever, and stories, and kind of Star Wars had like a limited amount of like main stories, and then they kind of had to like add these, the spin-offs to keep it interesting and continue the brand and continue the universe within their platform. And like I said, it's helping with their ROI because think about it. I mean, this whole streaming idea is really like it's one of the best models you could ever think of for any company, a media. I mean, if you just have people spending money every month, and you just retain them, it adds up. It's kind of like, I mean, that's why I think I'd be interested to know how much. Well, I haven't looked it up, but like how much AMC makes off of their subscription base for theaters, because like I feel like it's the same sort of thing. It's like, if they know they can count on that revenue every year or every month from a certain amount of people, like that helps their bottom line, and they know not everybody's going to be watching like at least 3 movies a month. They might watch 1 movie a month. Like someone like me, I'll make sure I watch like 3 movies a month so I get or 2 movies a month so I at least get my money's worth. But it's the same sort of thing with any of these home streaming services. I mean, shoot, I'm definitely getting my Netflix, Disney Plus, and money's worth, and like you can say HBO Max and other ones too. But it's a great revenue. It's definitely if you can cut out advertising and another a third party, and you can just get your money directly from the consumer because they really want to see your stuff. That's like one of the best models ever, and Netflix has proven that. So, and now Disney Plus is they might take over. Netflix is going hard. Netflix really has to go hard and give us that exclusive, movies and TV shows that are so compelling that you can't see anywhere else, that people have to retain their Netflix membership, and will make more people get on there. So, or subscribe. So that's why you're going to still see Netflix make these big deals, and with filmmakers and these showrunners, and at least to keep the domestic subscribers happy. And then, like I said, that's why they're also getting into the international market, different international markets. So, exciting times, man. Exciting times,
For sure. And with that being said, that's going to wrap up our episode for this week in review. So I want to thank you guys so much for checking out the episode this week. Before we let you guys go, I'll shoot it over to Jerome. Jerome, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Yeah, you can definitely find me. You can see right here. I know you can put it.
Nope. There you go. Hold on.
Yeah, there you go. JW Bourgeois 21. You can find me there for Twitter, Instagram. Definitely like, subscribe, and click on that little bell on YouTube when you see us at youtube.com/Movers Shakers Unlimited. And our Movers and Shakers Instagram is Movers Shakers Unlimited, like you see on the screen. Also, you can find us on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD and Facebook at Move and Shake UNLTD. And if you're a big fan, and you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com, Movers Shakers Unlimited, and definitely support us. We have extra perks for our super fans and our Patreon members. And definitely a good show today, and excited to get back next week. And we're definitely going to have some exciting stuff. Maybe we'll be talking about or showing in the next few weeks. Might be at a different location too.
For sure. So that was a good tease, man. So yes, next week we will actually be at AwesomeCon. So for those of you who don't know, AwesomeCon is one of the major cons that are here in the East Coast. It's here in our hometown, here in DC. So we will, be giving you the rundown, the 411 of all the cool happenings that are there, whether it's with the panels, the cosplay, or even perhaps some exclusive interviews. Be on the lookout for those. So yes, that'll be happening next week. And then even beyond that, we have some cool things that are on the way for the weeks to follow. So, keep it locked here on Movers and Shakers Unlimited, as we will give you, the 411 of all the awesome goings on, as I said, in this month of August, which will be quite busy. Don't you worry. But you can find me at Brandon Troy ENT, which you can see down below on Twitter. And you can also find me at Brandon Troy _ ENT on Instagram. With that being said, thanks so much for watching, guys. Be safe out there, and otherwise, see you soon. Bye.
Peace.